Welcome to your very first flipped lesson. Now I'm hoping this is a new style we can try to utilize to make notes a little quicker, and that way we can have more time in class to get to activities. So today we're going to be looking at the 5 themes of geography. First, we have to understand, what is geography? Now, geography is the study of the Earth's surface. It includes people's responses to topography, climate, soil, and vegetation. But we're going to make it a lot simpler than that. To us, geography is what the Earth looks like and how people interact with it. Within geography, there are 5 themes. First is movement, then regions, human environment interaction, or as we're going to refer to it as HEI, location, and place. Now these 5 themes are used by scientists to study the Earth's surface and to understand how people depend on it and interact with it. So the first one, movement. We know movement can be anything from kinesthetic movement with your body to movement across locations to movement within a fixed space. So what does it mean in terms of geography? Movement explores where different resources are located, the people that use them, and how they're transported to locations around the world. Within movement, there are 3 subcategories. First, people and goods. When you think about movement, one of the first things you think about is yourself moving. So where are you moving around? Maybe you travel from Penfield to the city of Rochester for a band lesson every day, for acting. Maybe you went on vacation this summer and you went to Europe and you traveled across the Atlantic Ocean. Maybe you just bought new sneakers for the first day of school and they were made in China. Movement is looking at how all of those people or goods travel around the world. Next is information. For example, how do people in the US know about what's going on in China? How did we watch the Olympics? Information travels across borders, across oceans, just like people and goods do. And lastly is ideas. All 3 of these subcategories are things that scientists need to look at to understand movement. Now the second theme, regions. We're going to look at regions that may be created based on climate, location, language and culture, and landforms. So, what are some examples of this? First, North America. When you think of North America, you know Canada, the United States, and Mexico make up North America. It's a region based on its map location. But then there's Latin America. Latin America is not a continent. Rather, it's a region based on common language shared among many nations. For example, Mexico, Belize, Peru, they all make up Latin America because they all are predominantly Spanish-speaking countries. Now here's another example, the United States. Even within the United States, we have different regional areas. New York is in the Northeast. Same with Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. These states all make up the Northeast. And we have the Southeast with Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas. In the South, there's always Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana. We have California on the west. And then we have Northwest, Washington, Oregon. To some people, Alaska. Next is human environment interaction, or again, HEI. When we're talking about this, we're talking about how people depend on their environment and how that dependence affects the environment around them. So, some general examples. First, people modify the environment. We know this. When you build new roads, you modify the environment. When you build a new neighborhood, you cut down trees and modify the environment. People also, though, have to adapt to their environment. Think about houses in central New York, western New York, away from the ocean, versus houses that border the Atlantic Ocean. They're typically built up on stilts. That way the water doesn't do damage to the house. People have to adapt their lives based around the environment in their region. Now, there are consequences and benefits to these interactions. And we're not going to look at them today. Rather, I want you to think about them for class tomorrow, because we're going to start off by talking about these. So we know that we depend on our environment, and that's going to have an effect on the environment. But how are those interactions either negative, but how can they also be positive? Try to come up with examples for both for class tomorrow. Next is location. Location answers the question, where is it? There are two kinds of location. First is absolute location. And if you think back to math, absolute means it's concrete. There's no arguing it. So this is the exact location of a place on Earth. So, for example, Rochester, New York. That is an exact location of a place on Earth. You could find it on a map. You can type it into Google Maps and it will show up. Then there's relative location. And that's the location of a place compared to others. So when you're thinking of relative location, maybe you're thinking of the store next to the pizza shop at the end of the street. If you're talking to a neighbor, they might know what you mean because you described it based on other things around. You're not giving the exact location, you're giving the relative location. Now our last and final category is place. And place is often known by its own special characteristics. And that's going to be the key phrase, special characteristics. Place answers the question, what is it like there? Think about where you've traveled before. If you had to describe the location without giving away its name, how would you describe it? What hints or keys would you use to describe it? Now within place there are two types. First is human. So these human characteristics help determine a place. Customs, beliefs, holidays, political ideas. But then there are, of course, also physical characteristics. Mountains, plains, oceans, rivers, lakes, countless other landforms. A place can be described using either or both. Now, that is all for our notes today. If you did not get enough written down on your note sheet, remember it will be checked tomorrow in class. I encourage you to watch this video again, or maybe just rewind to the spot you need to. Also, first thing tomorrow morning, you will have to complete a check for understanding, so make sure you understand the material and come ready with some examples of some of the different themes.